Could there be a better lead into this conversation from CompleteColorado.com? Sherrie Peif, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Scott Weiser, who covers Colorado on the southern half, thank you for being here.
Nice to be here.
All right, let's talk first of what I think is just sad news. Listen, I'm not a big fan of the mainstream media in all sorts of ways, but to see that the Denver Post has to have another round of layoffs. There was a time when there was almost, 450 reporters between the two newspapers. After this town is going to have a news staff at the one remaining paper of only 60 people, a 30% cut. Listen, I might not always agree with the Post, but we need a newspaper. We need reporters.
We do, and I was telling you off camera, the one thing that we always talked about is where all of the news comes from, and it comes from the newspapers, and it comes from the news reporters. Television stations and radio stations are not equipped to do the type of daily coverage that a daily newspaper does, and regardless of what anybody thinks of daily newspapers are needed, and it breaks my heart. I have friends at the Denver Post, and it breaks my heart to see them going through it again, because daily newspapers are a much needed aspect of the society, and it's just really too bad.
What's awful is this death by 1,000 little cuts. We're going to squeeze you here, we're going to squeeze you here, we're going to make this pages smaller, we're going to have you do more and more and more, and now we're going to put up a paywall, which people don't like. We've seen this in all sorts of industries.
I stopped going to the Denver Post when they put the paywall up, and then they took it kind of down. They give you a couple of articles to look at. And, you can say whatever you want about the bias of the news media either way, but we have to have a news media. It's essential to our form of government and our nation that people be informed, and competition creates competition, and when you kill off the competition, the news suffers.
The news suffers, and in Colorado we have 3,700 governments. So we got Capitol beat reporters, and you've both done your share. But there's all sorts of reporters that needed in all these other places that need some transparency. Somebody needs to watch.
Transparency is a huge piece of this, and I don't know how many times I pick up every day. You can pick up a newspaper from anywhere in Colorado, and you will find that something's going on in some little board somewhere that the local newspaper reporter has uncovered shouldn't be happening. And without that transparency, government is going to be able to start doing things that government shouldn't be doing because they're not being watchdogged.
Which brings us to what you guys do at Complete Colorado. Not only is it an aggregator of different stories, so you go there and you get to see the stories from the papers around the town, so you don't have to hunt and peck because those papers keep getting smaller and smaller. But you do individual reporting as well. Let's talk about your new beat, which we've never had a reporter that took care of Southern Colorado, because when you live in the Denver metro area, the world stops at Castle Rock.
It sure does. And that includes I-25, by the way, which stops at Castle Rock. I've been finding that the more I get into Colorado Springs government, the more shenanigans I find. And there's so many shenanigans in so little time. And then there's the rest of the state. One of my first stories was going all the way down to Durango to report on a zoning issue down there that's blossomed into a recall effort against one of the county commissioners for her associations with environmental groups. And Colorado's a big place. And I would not even have known about that if it wasn't for the Durango Herald, which is where the original tip came from. So we can't let these even the little newspapers, we can't let them die, because as Sherrie says, the minute that you don't start looking at government, bad things start to happen.
Tell me about page 2. What makes page 2 of Complete Colorado special?
The ability that Scott and I have to, one of the things that I love about page 2 is the ability to actually investigate something and spend a little bit of time that I need to spend on it to get it right, to get it fully in depth, to get it accurate, to get what the information that we need. And so it's wonderful because we're not focused on one specific area. One day I'll find myself in Weld County government, the next day I'll find myself in Douglas County government, the next day I'll find myself back at the Capitol, or trying to hunt down things that Facebook founders are doing.
The one place we'll never see you at the Capitol
is on the floor of either the House or the Senate.
Now, all the respectable media players get to go on the floor of the
Right.
Capitol. That
Yeah.
is, talk to the legislators right where they work.
Right.
You're in the back of the bus, sweetie. I'm sorry. There's no other way to put it. You have to stay in the gallery. Why is that?
Because I work for you. No, you know.
Is it? That's true, though, isn't it?
It's true. That's
It's just
exactly.
that
It's that simple. It's because I work for you. They still see Complete Colorado as the sounding board for the Independence Institute, and that everything that we do is based on what the Independence Institute wants us to do. And because they feel that way, they're not going to give us credentials. But I've come to the conclusion that I just, you know, it's not. I don't care anymore. I fully embrace my access denied persona. And I've gotten respect from politicians and legislators and gubernatorial candidates and U.S. congressmen and senators all across the board that know that the work that I do is
Because the work that's done on Complete
Right.
is AP-style reporting.
it absolutely is.
And I mean, I'll be upfront. The bias in reporting is not bias in the story. It's bias in the story selection in every media outlet.
Correct.
That's where you see it. Do you think Page 2 and Complete Colorado, same product, do you think it lasts and it gets to be a point now that newspapers die, that online sites like Complete start picking up the slack? Is this where the next generation goes to find out what's going on in town?
I think it has to, and I think that the new generations depend on digital media, and there really is not an alternative except for people not to get their information from Facebook, which is 90% baloney, and I see more and more content even on the big newspapers going to media sites as opposed to printing a newspaper. I still love a newspaper.
Really? Why?
I'd love to sit there in the diner when I eat my breakfast and leaf through the newspaper and read
You're
the
so
stories.
old.
I know, I am.
See, when the Denver Post shrunk, I was able to tell the folks at the Denver Post my favorite joke I ever made, which was, now I got to buy 2 Denver Posts to line my birdcage. I was so proud of that. What sites do you go to besides Complete? There are a lot of other sites there trying to, in their own way, aggregate and get news out.
I use Colorado Politics a lot. I use the Colorado Independent a lot. The Greeley Tribune, the Fort Collins Coloradoan, the Loveland Reporter Herald, all of the daily news sites for the communities that I cover from Douglas County north. Pretty much everything. And I actually have Google alerts set. So what I've done is I've gone in and I've told my computer, if this particular term comes up anywhere, pop me a notification so that I can go to that newspaper and find out what's going on. But I use Denver Business Journal, Westward.
What's the biggest obstacle in getting your job done to investigate?
Right now, it seems to be just sometimes getting phone calls back, and not necessarily because of the lack of credentials or that they don't like you or the whatever. But there are so many media outlets right now that everybody wants to do an interview with Walker Stapleton, or everybody wants to do an interview with Jared Polis. There's only so many times that Jerry Sonnenberg is going to answer a phone call to answer the same question over and over again.
What's the biggest obstacle for you? Just a few seconds left.
Right now, government transparency.
In what way?
Trying to pry information out of Colorado Springs is being incredibly difficult at this
city?
time. Yeah,
Or the
city
county?
of Colorado Springs.
More so than other governments?
Yes, yeah, more so, way more so than even Monument, which has a way better website than the city of Colorado Springs does as far as being able to contact people and identify people within the city government. But they've got this veil of secrecy over a lot.
Well, watch out, Southern Colorado. Scott's on it. Thank you. Check out Complete Colorado. That's, believe it, CompleteColorado.com. We'll see you next week.